Not every person close to you is making you stronger in faith. Some relationships build you, others quietly wear you down, and you barely notice until you look back. You have been calling it closeness, but closeness is not the same thing as spiritual safety. Scripture never tells us that nearness automatically means good fruit. It tells us to test the fruit itself. Today, we will look at 5 signs worth examining honestly, not to make you suspicious of everyone, not to make you cold toward people you love, but so you can notice what is actually happening in your own heart. Stay to the end, because the last sign is not about them at all. It is about who you are slowly becoming. Before we start, one thing needs to be said clearly. This is not permission to accuse, attack, or cut someone off in anger. Scripture calls us to examine fruit patiently and to seek wise counsel before big decisions. 1 Corinthians 15:33 says, "Bad company corrupts good character." Proverbs 13:20 says, "Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise." These are not throwaway lines. They are an invitation to pay attention to influence, not to panic about people. So hold this gently as we go. Here is the first sign. Their presence consistently leaves your spirit unsettled, not strengthened. Picture a phone call that starts friendly enough, but by the end, your chest feels tight. You cannot name exactly why. You just notice that you feel smaller or more anxious than before the call started. This is not about one bad conversation. Everyone has an off day. This is about a pattern that repeats itself, call after call, visit after visit. Proverbs 4:23 tells us to guard our heart above all else, because everything we do flows from it. Guarding your heart is not the same as hardening it. It means paying attention to what is shaping it. Here is a simple test. After time with this person, do you feel closer to God or further away? Do you feel more at peace or more anxious than before? This is not about one moment. Look for a pattern over weeks and months. If you notice a repeated pattern, do not act on emotion alone. Bring it honestly to God in prayer and ask Him for wisdom to see clearly. Here is the second sign. Your prayer life becomes quieter after spending time with them. Imagine finishing a long conversation with a friend. You used to pray easily before bed. Lately, you scroll instead. You tell yourself you are just tired. But the pattern started around the same time this relationship grew closer. This does not mean the person is evil. It may simply mean their influence is pulling your attention away from what feeds your spirit. Galatians describes the fruit of the Spirit as love, joy, peace, patience, and self-control. A relationship does not have to be dramatic to be draining. A pattern where your prayer life keeps getting quieter is not neutral. It only has to consistently crowd out the things that keep your faith alive. Here is the test. Has your time in prayer or scripture actually decreased since this relationship deepened? Be honest, not dramatic. If the answer is yes, bring that specific pattern before God. Ask Him to help you protect your time with Him without needing to accuse anyone. A boundary here can simply mean guarding your mornings, your evenings, or your quiet time again. If any of this sounds familiar so far, do not brush it aside. This is not about judging someone's character in one sitting. The next 2 signs are the ones people usually take longest to admit. Here is the third sign. You find yourself compromising your convictions just to keep the peace with them. Picture this. You know you should set a boundary or step away from a certain conversation, but you stay quiet because you do not want to upset them. Over time, keeping them happy becomes more important than keeping your spirit clean. Galatians 1:10 asks, "Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God?" Notice the warning there. Pleasing people can quietly replace pleasing God if we are not careful. Here is the test. Do you find yourself constantly walking on eggshells or bending your own morals just to avoid their reaction? If so, that is worth noticing. Not to start a fight with them, but to remember that your first loyalty is always to God, not to keeping a false peace. Here is the fourth sign. Their fruit does not match the words they use around you. Imagine someone who speaks about faith fluently. They quote scripture easily. They sound wise in conversation. But patience is thin. Kindness disappears the moment they do not get their way. Jesus said, "You will know a tree by its fruit, not by its vocabulary, not by how convincingly it can speak." This is not about perfection. No one has fully ripened fruit all the time. This does not mean you judge someone by one weak moment. This is about a consistent gap between what someone says and what actually grows in their life over time. Here is the test. Does their life show patience, kindness, and self-control over time, or mostly around certain people and not others? If the gap is wide and consistent, that is not something to gossip about. It is something to bring to God in prayer, and if needed, to a trusted mentor for wise counsel. Here is the final sign, and this is the one that matters most. You become less like the person God is forming you to be when they have access. Not because they attacked your faith directly, simply because little by little, their patterns became your patterns. Their impatience became your impatience. Their cynicism became your cynicism. Their compromises started to feel normal to you, too. Romans tells us not to be conformed to the pattern of this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. That transformation is slow, but so is the drift away from it. Someone may already be coming to mind as you hear this. If so, do not rush to a decision tonight. Bring their name honestly before God. Ask Him to show you the fruit clearly, not through fear and not through offense. Ask a trusted, wise believer to help you see this relationship with clear eyes. Boundaries are not the same as bitterness. Access is not the same thing as love. Stepping back from unhealthy access is not the same as hating someone. Some relationships do not attack your faith loudly. They simply make obedience feel less normal. Scripture calls us to love people while still being wise about what we give access to. Tonight, do not make a dramatic decision out of this video. Instead, bring one honest question to God. Tonight, write down the pattern, not just the person's name. Lord, show me the fruit in this relationship clearly. Give me wisdom, not suspicion. Give me courage, not fear. Faith is not protected by isolating yourself from everyone. Faith is protected by staying close to God and staying honest about what is actually growing in your life. Which of these 5 signs have you recognized in your own life? Write in the comments, Lord, give me wisdom and discernment. If this message helped you, subscribe to Guard Your Spirit for more biblical wisdom and spiritual discernment.